So yeah, if we want to make a model in Rails, we do the Rails G model command. So I can do Rails G model contact. Cool. So I created a contact model. Now I didn't give it any attributes. So maybe I didn't mean to do that. If I ever want to delete a model, I can use the Rails D model command and just give it the name of the model. And that will delete just essentially all of those files it created. So let's go ahead and regenerate this. So I created it. If I want to delete it, I can. So let's do a Rails G model contact. But now let's give it some attributes. So let's give it a name. That's going to be a string. Let me make this bigger. So let's just say we have a name, that will be a string. We'll have an age, that could be an integer. You can have a phone, that can be a string, and an email, which can be a string. So notice that this is creating, I'm kind of concerned with these two files. We have our contact.rb. That is actually, that's where we define our model. And maybe we'll do some custom methods on this today. And then it also creates this migration. So if I go into, if I go into, actually, I want to just check some stuff. I don't know what I did to my gem file. Oh yeah. So I actually made a change to my gem file where I'm added faker twice because I was just doing that as a demo. I'm using GitHub to show, oh, I added this. I don't want to do that. I can undo that. Cool. Sorry, anyway, side note. So let's go into our contact.rb, just a simple file right here. Nothing going on. Well, actually, there's a lot going on here, but it seems pretty simple. This is where we define our model. And today we'll come in and put some custom methods in here. But what I want to look at for now is our migration file. This is just the instruction to create this table to the database. So notice right now that in my folder, I do not have a schema.rb. That's because I haven't run any migrations yet. So the migrations is instructions to create my database. So I can come here and run my Rails db migrate. So that creates my schema.rb. And this comment kind of tells me this, like this is auto-generated, please use migrations to modify your database instead of, and don't edit this file. So we don't want to edit this file ever, but it is a useful file to look at because this is going to show us what our database looks like. So let's say I want to change my database. Well, let's say instead of this being, let's say I want to come in here and add another field. I could do that here in my migration file. So I'm going to create a field that's going to be a string, and let's just call this username. So this is one way you can change your database. You can come in here and you can, get rid of these, or you can add them to your to where you're creating that table. But there's kind of a little got you here. If I do a Rails DB migrate, even though it's changed here, I have the username here. If I look at my schema, I don't see the username there. So if it's not in my schema, it's not in my database. So that change didn't get applied. What I would need to do if I change it this way is I actually need to recreate my database, and I need to rerun this migration. So I could do a shorthand is a Rails DB reset. That actually drops my database and it recreates it. And now I actually need to do another Rails DB migrate. Where's my schema? Did that not do it? Did I not save that? Actually, I guess if I change my migration file, t.string, maybe it's going to make me hard code these out. Rails DB drop DB migrate. So I drop it, I DB create it, DB migrate. And I can run these all in, like, I can drop it, I can create it, and then migrate it. That should.
Is that instead of resetting it, so you don't have to do that?
Yeah, because well, it looked like, so this is a small distinction, but if I change one of my migration files, then I do actually need to run Rails DB drop and create and migrate.
Okay.
That reruns the migration. If I go into my schema, there's my username. But kind of one of the key takeaway here is first of all, don't edit your schema file. It's not going to do anything. But if the things aren't in your schema, this is kind of showing you what your database looks like. So like when I tried doing that DB reset and I looked at my schema, the username was not there. So I knew my database didn't have that username column. So I was like, oh, and this is like a small distinction between resetting and actually running these hard-coded commands like db drop, db create. Like this is db drop, that's like destroying my database. And then I recreate it, and then I remigrate it. So that gives you a couple ways, and we'll see one more. That gives us a couple ways to update our database. Questions on that? All right, I'm going to throw out this in Slack. So I don't want to have to type this all out, and probably neither do you, but let's go ahead and step into our Rails console and start creating some databases. And now actually, I don't want username inside of here. So I'm going to delete my username from my migration file. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this Rails DB drop, DB create, and DB migrate again. And I'm using the up arrow in terminal to kind of go through my history of terminal commands, so I don't have to type it out again. So I removed username from my migration. I dropped my database, recreated it, remigrated it. I go to my schema. Now username's gone. Cool. So now let's step into our Rails console and kind of, create some users. So these are the ones I threw out in Slack. So I'm just going to copy and paste some of these. So we're going to use our contact model. So I'm using this contact model, and then I'm calling the create, which inserts this into my database. So we have one, Carl, and age. Cool. So I can just kind of take some of these other ones, throw these in here. These are all in Slack. So I'm going to create a couple of contacts, just so we have some stuff to work with. Cool. Okay, so now, just to check this, I can do a contact all. I can scroll down. I can see all my contacts. I'm going to scroll this up so it's a little bigger. If I can't get out of here, if I see like this end or this semicolon, I can hit Q. I can do contact.all.size to see how many I have. So I have 5 contacts. Cool. I can come in, and we saw this yesterday. I can find a contact by given ID. 1. So that's going to grab me, that's going to look by ID. Now, everything in your database, every table is going to have an ID column, and it's going to be an auto incrementing int. So it just starts at 1, and then it just adds 1 every time you create something. I can also find, I can use my contact dot find, and then I can look for something. I can like find name. I can find, Carl. I'm getting an error. Oh, sorry, this is find by. Find will automatically look for the ID. If I want to look for something else other than the ID, I can use the find by. And then there's the where method, because we have a couple Carls inside of here, or we should. That's going to give me back in an array of my contacts. See, if I try to do like a dot where name is Carl's, I don't have any Carl's, but this still gives me back that array. If I do find by, and I don't have the item, that just gives me back nil. There's other methods, so I could do something like contact.all. That grabs me all of my contacts, but then I can like order these. Maybe I want to order these by one of their attributes. So we have age inside of there. So now I can order these by age, and then, that way I could, like, if someone does, a GET request for all the contacts, maybe I want to give the data back sorted. So now these are ordered by age. And Q could also do it descending if I wanted to go the other way. Order age. Descending. Let's see here, let's quit out of that. So I can do contact.all dot limit. So I can grab all my contacts, and then I can limit. Maybe I only want like 3 back. So if I do dot length on that, that should just be 3. Because, maybe I have like 1 million contacts, and I don't want to send back 1 million contacts. Maybe I just want to send back like the first 100. Yeah, and there's just a lot of these methods. I can do my where, and then I can do a .not method. So I can grab all my contacts where the name is not Carl. And that grabs me all my contacts who are not Carl. So there's a lot of these methods. It's kind of just like working with arrays or hashes. Just know about these. We can look at the active record documentation in Rails or just any other website. So that's what we're working with. All of our models in Ruby are what are called active record objects. So they all have these methods built into them. So let's go ahead and create. We saw this yesterday, but I just want to go over this again because it's a little subtle, but it's important. So remember how we had the new method. And then like an age. Okay. So the new method creates a contact, but it creates it in memory, not in the database. So I do have this contact now. So if I do k.class, that is a contact. So I can do like k.id. It does have an ID, but the value is nil. This is like kind of going back to the first day when we're talking about data types and nil and null. Do you see how nil is an actual data type? If I do like k.id zzz or something that's non-existent, that's like undefined. That's like an error. But we do have it, like this contact does have an ID, it just doesn't have a value because it has not been saved to the database. So then I can do like k.save. And now that actually saves it to the database. And actually what you're seeing here, this is SQL. We're going to learn about SQL later in this course. But here's the SQL command essentially, like we're inserting into our contacts table, this person. And now that was successful. So we now this person is in the database. But if I do something like k.email, that's nil, because when I created this object up here, this contact, I only gave it a name and an age. So right now we don't have any validations. I could say like contact.create. That actually creates a contact in my database. But the name, age, phone, and email are nil. But now I have a contact with ID 7. We'll talk about some validations. Let's actually maybe just do a validation really quick so we can see this. So, and then we can kind of talk about, we can actually go in and see what our model's doing. So let's come into our contact.rb. So this is our contact model. And by default, see, we're extending from application record. But if I really look at that, it's really we're extending from active record. So that's where we're getting all of these methods from. But, we're probably going to want to eventually add some of our own functionality, right? So for example, one of the things that we want to maybe do is some validation. And what I can do here is I can do this validates. And this is a Rails helper method. So I want to validate name and email. Maybe if I'm creating the contact, these are the things I want to have in my contact. So I can say these are, what I want to say is I want to make sure these are present. So I'm going to use this presence and I'm going to set that to true. And let's also, let's do one more just to show you another type of validation we could do. I could also say validates, age. So I'm going to validate our age field, and I want to do this. I cannot say this word, numericality. How do you say that? Numeralic, dude, I can't say it. Numeric. Okay, sorry. How do you say that word? Someone help me.
Numericality?
Numericality. Thank you. So yeah, we're just, what I want to see, let's just say like, I want to see, this is maybe we're doing like a poker website or something, like a poker app. And I want to make sure this is greater than or equal to 21. Like we're like a casino. So all of our contacts, we want to just make sure they're 21 or over. Cool. So now that I've saved this, now if I go back to my console and I do like a contact, and I'm going to set this to a variable. Let's just do like C equals contact dot create, and I'm not going to give it any fields. One thing I always forget to do this. If we're in the Rails console and we make a change to our code, we do need to exit out of it and restart it. Because we have to like Rails, if we're running like our Rails server and we're doing it within like our website, Rails will like take care of this stuff, a lot of that stuff for us. So we don't have to restart our Rails server. But with Rails console, with all the changes, we do need to restart it. So let's try this again, because that was successful. I have a contact with ID 8. So that failed my validation. So let's do contact.create. And now that's a syntax error. So here's a question. If I have a syntax, let's say someone is doing a post request to create a contact, and I have a syntax error in my code, like in this model. What type of HTTP error, like what number are you going to get back?
That like a 500?
Yeah. This would be a syntax error. This would be on my server. It's like, yeah, I screwed up. That would definitely be a 500 error. So I'm going to save that. Yeah, and unfortunately, I have to exit, run this again. Numerality. Did I spell that right?
Does the validate need to have an S at the end of it?
Yes, it does. Validates. Yeah, that's right. Perhaps you meant to call validates instead of validate. Yes, I did. Thank you, Sydney. Exit. Rail C. Cool. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. So I still have a contact. If I do contact C.class, that is a contact. But notice how the ID is nil. Errors dot full messages. How do I find these? Okay. So I have this contact object that I set equal to contact dot create. And now now I have this C variable, which is a contact. And now if I do C.errors.full messages, I'm getting these errors. Name can't be blank. Email can't be blank. Age is not a number. So let's try doing this again. Contact.create. Let's give it a name. Tony, let's give him the email. And let's do age. Let's do 20. So it's storing these values. It has the name is Tony, the age is 20, but the ID is still nil. So if I do c.error.full messages, see there's the message. Age must be greater than or equal to 21. So this is not going to allow this to save to the database unless I give it that valid input. It's created in memory, like I have the contact in memory, but it's not passing validation. Questions on that? So if I wanted to fix this, I could say something like, well, let's have c.age equal 21. And then I could do c.save. Now that's true. Now this contact has an ID, which means they're in the database. Another like common one that we might want to have on this is like our validates. I can get rid of this email here. I probably don't only want to, I probably just want to do more than make sure that the email is present. Maybe I want to make sure that it is unique. Uniqueness is true. Unique. Yes. So now that's going to make sure that I don't have two users with the same email in my database.
Does that need to be validates again?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Just pardon me, syntax wise, is it better to do like validates email uniqueness true, presence true? Like if you were to try to stack multiple validations on a singular key, or is it better to write a new line for it?
Oh, you mean like when I had it here before?
As in like, sorry, like on line 4, is it okay to add presence true as well if you wanted to? Or is it better to write a like copy line 4 down with a new?
No, that would kind of like, I don't need, so I could have email here and validates email presence true, but I already have like uniqueness is going to make sure it's there as well. So. I believe now you have me questioning myself. So let's come in here and try to create a contact that does not have an email. Their age is greater than 23. So I'm no longer validating that email has to be present. I'm just validating it has to be unique.
By unique, what is it just like, it's just a function that was made, I guess?
No, unique just means I can't have two emails in my database, in my table that have the, like I can't have two contacts that have the same email.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if I do c.errors.full messages. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe
I mean, functionally, it'll probably work. Yes.
it might have. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do contact, because maybe what it did is when I created one email, like there's already a person who has an email of null. Because I have that, right? I have a contact who has an email of null. And then I'm trying to create another one. So it's like, oh, null's already, or I should say nil's already taken. So I'm going to destroy all my contacts. Okay, so I just destroyed all my contacts in my database with that contact.destroy all. So if I do contact.all, I don't have any. So let's go ahead and try to recreate this contact. Okay, so that actually did work. But yeah, if I try to create another contact that doesn't have an email, well, that doesn't work because nil's already been taken. So for that one, yeah, if I did want a presence, then I should leave that there.
What did you type in to destroy them all? Sorry.
You don't have to do that. I did contact.destroy all.
Okay.
Cool. So there are some validations. Actually, while we're just in this class, we haven't really talked about classes. I mean, we haven't, but let's do some object-oriented programming. So here's our contact model. We get all of these Rails methods for us, right? But let's say I want to create my own method in here. Well, there's two ways I can do that. There's a thing called a class method. And there's a thing called a instance method. Now, don't think about code right now. Just think about the real world. And let's say like I mean, we're talking about a contact, but let's make it a little more simple and say like I have a human class. A human class is going to describe a human. So like a human might have an age, a name, hair color. Now, that's just like the class, and like humans themselves, like humans might have like a population. Like there's 7 billion humans. That's kind of describing the class human. But I can also have a instance of a human, right? That would be like you. You are a instance of human. You're an individual. You're one human. So this is when I say class method and instance method, that's what we're talking about. Class method's going to be called like on the human. The instance method's going to be called on like a individual. So for an example, let's do an instance method. Let's say like def about me. Now I'm going to use this. I want this method to print out information about the contact that is calling it. And we'll kind of see what that means. And I'm going to use this self keyword. Like, hello. Now we could have billions of contacts, right? But I want to grab the information about one. So I'm going to use this self keyword. And this is going to refer to the instance that is calling the method. I'm going to say that here. Self here refers to the instance calling the method. Like you have an about me method, right? Say hello. Like I'm programming you right now to have this method. See, I can give every single one of you this about me method. And then, you know, I could say, hey, Tom, like call this method. what would you say, Tom?
Tom,
Yeah, hello, I am Tom. Then if I said this to Kelsey, Kelsey would say, hello, I am Kelsey. So self is referring to the person who's calling it. Does that make sense? So let's go ahead and use this. So I changed that. I need to exit out of Rails console. Let's make John. Who have I not used? I don't think I've used Sally yet. So let's create a contact, Sally contact.create. Her name can be Sally. Let's give her an age. They have to be over 21. Email. So is this a valid email? It's kind of, I mean, for my database, it is, right? I'm only validating uniqueness. I don't actually check to see if it's an email. There's a way to do that, but we won't get into that. So I'm creating a contact. Oh God, dude, how many times? I missed a comma right here. And I'll slack out this, so if you're kind of following along with my errors, there's that. This should work. Okay. So let's do that. I'm going to create my contact. So Sally's in my database. Cool. So Sally, so if I do Sally.class, that's a contact. So Sally is an instance of the contact class. So Sally has this, about me method. So hello, I am Sally. I create another, instance, store this to the variable like J. So now J is an instance of, email's been taken. Now J is an instance of my contact class, and now J can call the about me. Hello, I am John. So a class method, so that's an instance method. You call it on a instance of the class. A class method is something that you call to get information about the class itself. So, and we use the self keyword here in the method definition to define a class method. So let's do like total contacts. Maybe I want to get like the information about how many contacts I have. So I could do contact, and actually I can use self here, self.all.size. And here, self refers to the class contact. And if that's here, I could also just do contact.all.size. But let's just do it like this. So we have both examples, self.all.size. Cool. So this is a class method. So maybe I want to get all my contacts. So then I can exit out of here, restart this. So a class method I call on the class contact dot, I forgot what I call it, total contacts. And there you go, 3. So I have 3 contacts.
So starting it with self makes it a class method.
Yeah, that's you have to start with self dot to make a class method. Otherwise, it will be an instance method. Let's also look at this private keyword. I don't know. Something secret. So I'm going to make a function called here def something secret. It's like my password. Whatever. Secret here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So this seems like it's an instance method, right? Because I don't use the self keyword. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to restart my server or my console. Let's just grab my contact dot first. So c dot about me. This is Tony. So let's do c dot something secret. Something secret. And just to make sure I spelled this right, I'm going to copy it here. C dot something secret. Cool. So I'm getting a no method error, and it's actually telling me private method something secret called for Tony. So it knows it's a private method. So this, anything I define below this private keyword means I can't call it outside of the class. Can't call outside of the class. Well, what the hell does that mean? This means, so I can't call it on an instance because this is, but I can call this method inside of here. So let's just do, let's define another method actually. Get secret info. And let's just say secret equals something secret. And then we can like return secret dot length. Right? Dot length is just going to give me the length of the string. So let's exit here. Let's run this. Grab my contact. Then I can do c dot, get secret info 18. So I can use this method within the class, but I can't use it outside of the class. So I can call this something secret inside of my class, but I can't call it on like the instance. So maybe I want something like, there's something I want to protect, but I still want to use it like I did here. Like, here's my secret, and maybe I just want to give away like the length. So that's what the private method does. It allows us to define functions that we can only use inside of the class. Any questions on that? Let's see here. What else can we talk about? I want to get until we get to valid. I think we're about there. Let's talk about one more way to make a migration. And then we'll take a break. So I showed you one way to change your database, but there's some pros to it and there's some cons to it. So right now, if I do like contact.all, I have some contacts in here in dot size. Cool. So let's say, like my boss comes to me and they say, hey man, this name, it's just really confusing. I really just want this to be first name because that's really what it is. So I want you to go through your data. I want you to change this value from name to first name. Cool. So the one way I showed you how to do it is I could come into here. I could come in and switch this to first name. And then I could come in, I could do a rels db drop, db create, etc., db migrate. But what's like the downside to this? And it's a huge downside.
If the database was actually storing real info, you lose all of that.
Yeah. If I do it this way and I actually have like a database that's up and running and like it's in production and I drop my database, it's going to delete all my data. So yeah, I can't do that. So that's kind of not an option. This is a good option when you are like, as a developer, you're developing and you don't care if you drop your database. I think that's a fine way to do it if you don't actually have any real data. Like you have a seeds file. This is why a seeds file is nice. You can just drop your database, remigrate it, reseed it. And then you can come in and easily make changes. But yeah, we no longer have this option because let's say we can't get rid of our users. So this is the whole reason we're doing like this weird migration stuff. Like this is why when we create a model, it just doesn't automatically create it in the database. It's like creating this migration file because this is a way we can it's giving us a way to update our database because your database throughout its life cycle is going to change. And this is how Rails gives us a way for us to be able to change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my terminal and I'm going to create a new migration. So I'm going to generate something called a migration, Rails G migration. And I'm just going to name it what I'm trying to do. So I'm changing, change name to first name. That's like the point of, I'm trying to change name to first name. Cool. Run that. That just creates this migration. And this weird number here, it's not really, this is actually the timestamp. So as I'm running this, like it keeps track of the timestamp. And so this is going to like order these migrations. So, it's 2021, August 24th, and whatever time it is. So here's the migration. And now I can come in here and define this. So I can do something like this. I want to rename column. And if I ever like do migrations, I feel like most of the time I have to like Google like the keys. So this is something I Google a lot, like, oh, I want to rename a column in Rails. How do I do that? So I'll just Google that. But how we do this, I'm going to rename column. I give it my table name. So that's contacts. Then I give it the column I want to rename. So name. And then first name. And remember these, if it starts with this colon, these are the symbol data types, which are kind of like strings, but they're a special type of data in Ruby. So just say, take my contacts table, grab that name, and change it to first name. So note that right now my schema, this is name. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to run a Rails DB migrate. Okay. So that changes my name to first name. It runs that migration. So if I look at my schema, now that's changed to first name. And then if I go back to my console, Rails C, do like contact dot first. Now that's updated there. So now that has a first name. Let's look at one more. Just to kind of show. So this one, we're just renaming a table. And let's say I do like, because this one, like it automatically goes in, you know, the name was Tony. Now it's just called first name. Let's just do another migration. Show Rails G migration. Let's go like add DOB, you know, to users. So I want to add like the date of birth to my users table. So now I can just run that migration. And then let's go over there, fill this out. Def change. So I'm going to do this add column. Don't forget the syntax. I think it's add column. So that's our method. Column. How do you spell column? Anyone? Column. There we go.
Yep, that's it.
Add column. So I'm going to add column. Let's call this DOB. I forget this DOB fits this way. I'm going to have to Google this. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it's add column to users or to contacts. So we give it the name of the table. We give it the name of the column and then the type of data we want it to be. And then I can run this migration. So I run my Rails DB migrate. Now I have this date of birth string. But I just want to show you this because the difference here now is if I go into my Rails console, I think this will make sense, but kind of just see it. I grab like my contact dot first. Let's just type this out, contact dot first. Like they're not, like I can add stuff to my database like columns, but obviously like it's not going to magically go in and fill out those previous things in your database like that info. So that's kind of the difference between like renaming something and adding a column. If you're adding a column, all of those things already in your database, you know, are not going to magically get that a value for that. So it's just something to remember. I mean, or just to make that distinction. Cool. Any questions on this? I think this is a good time to take a break. Yay, nay. Are models starting to make a little more sense? So they're really nice. We have all this built-in functionality. Rails is doing a lot of this. It's doing all the SQL. We don't even need SQL right now. It's doing all that SQL for us. So cool. Well, let's take a break. What time is it? Let's come back at 11:40. Cool.